Hello everybody, we are back with Customer Marketing Catch Up. We're currently at the London Customer Marketing Summit and I am here with Valerio. Hello, how are you?
Good, how are you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing good. So just for the listeners at home, why don't you start off a little bit by telling us kind of like who you are, what your job title is,
Yeah, a little bit about myself. So my name is Valerio Bateli. I've been in Cisco for 7 years and I currently lead the global customer marketing team. I've been having different roles throughout the years. So I started in the EMEA region, leading the customer marketing team. We Christina Meluzzi, and then we scaled and expanded the function across the 3 regions, and now we do have a global team of 20 people. So
yeah. Oh wow, fantastic. So lots of experience kind of in this particular role, in this particular position.
Yeah, I've been in
well.
customer marketing for 10 years. So I started in fintech and then I moved into IT after 4 years.
Nice. Oh, wonderful. Yeah. So, and today at the event, you've been kind of a speaker, a speaker for a particular panel.
Yeah.
Which happened this morning, actually.
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah. So, which was about kind of customer programs and identifying kind of key stakeholders and the journey into kind of like creating these kinds of things. So, how did it go?
I thought it went down really well, and I think it was interesting to speak to amazing peers, from SAP and AWS. So I think it was interesting to understand how other big organizations or smaller organizations are dealing with the same issues and challenges, especially when building stakeholder partnerships. So when we started 7 years ago, we faced a lot of challenges in finding visibility, making noise about customer advocacy, creating actually some buzz about customer marketing. It wasn't a very hot topic 7 years ago. So there was a lot of education there that we had to do. So it was nice to see that my peers experience the same challenges and they face the stakeholder relationships the same way, more or less, I would say.
Must be quite a different environment as well in terms of challenges and stuff from the very beginning being quite a small thing.
Totally. And when we started, I would say it was all about visibility. So how can we actually partner with marketing, partnering with sales, and really have them understand how customer marketing can impact their daily job and can have an impact on the business and revenue. And so step by step, I feel that we moved away from that kind of goal of educating and craving visibility and I would say increasing the volume of partnerships, and then the objective was more about how can we actually turbocharge customer marketing via those partnerships. How do we make sure that when we work with those teams, it's a kind of win-win relationship? So we have some clear goals. They do have some clear goals as well, and we try to partner to get to the finish line, I would say.
Yeah, of course. I mean, partnerships are such an important thing as well.
Absolutely.
Internally and externally for customer marketing. And so kind of coming at it from like your experience and your perspective, just to get a little idea of the other things that you talked about on this panel. The specific thing was talking about flagship customer programs. So why don't you tell us a little bit about like maybe an example of one that you kind of have had a hand in, and the kind of key, I guess the like 2 key characteristics for key stakeholders that you wanted for this program, given that the kind of like stakeholder kind of conversations can sometimes be a bit of a challenge.
Yeah, I mean, we can start with the early, I would say, with the early stages. I mean, when we built up the program 7 years ago, we started building a program which was very community led. So we started a partnership with Influitive, and we created for the first time we created a community of customer advocates, and then year by year, obviously, we scaled and we launched a reference program, a solid customer story program. But when we started the community, then at the point, back to your question, what was the what's the persona of our stakeholder? I mean, what kind of stakeholders, we need to bring, the program to next level. When it comes down to marketing, that's the kind of, first, stakeholder. I mean, it was about, content. Like, the main conversation was about how can we support, the marketeers with user-generated content that was really cheap, it was very cost-effective, it was user-generated, and that would prevent, the marketeers, from working with very expensive, agencies, spending a lot of money. So I think, that was probably the key messaging, for their audience. So how can we capture, content and embed the content into, campaigns and, go-to-market, messaging. Whereas, the other persona was, the seller. So how can we actually, go to sales and say, you can use our program to establish a very solid, relationship, with your customers, and you can also track, that behavior. You can see if there's an upselling opportunity, if there's a cross-selling opportunity, and we could track, all of that to really show the value on the business, I would say.
Yeah. So I guess kind of like coming at it from an internal perspective, it's kind of how you can fit, what can the customers do to kind of help support what these particular teams are specialize in. Yeah.
Exactly. I think it was very new at the time to be able to report into the customer behavior. So there wasn't any reference or customer marketing team at the point. So it was a bunch of team working on some case studies or some speaking opportunities. But I think what really helped us change the narrative was for the first time having a centralized team and platform that could be a kind of catalyst for what they were looking for, basically.
Of course, yeah. I mean, when you've got a community of people kind of interacting all the time, every single day, it kind of helps support those customer
there wasn't actually a central place. I mean, it was conversations that were happening with customers in siloed situations or led by different teams. So it was also very difficult to track what was going on with certain customers. So having the kind of central place helped us scale, I would say. Okay, they knew that they obviously should go to us to start the kind of customer journey.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's such a fascinating thing, because having those kinds of programs 7 years ago, it's so interesting, because it feels like a lot of the conversations that I'm having at the moment, these customer programs are things that lots and lots of companies want, and they're wanting them earlier and earlier on the kind of growth journey, because people are realizing that this kind of thing really helps kind of support general business growth and things like that.
Absolutely, and that's the starting point to scale. I mean, we wouldn't have got to this point without really starting the community and then obviously getting positive results, advocating for more funding and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. So I guess I kind of want to maybe shift the conversation a little bit onto kind of the customers themselves. So you talked a little bit about how you can connect with your internal teams, marketing and sales, as you mentioned. So in terms of the journey for customers from that initial sales purchase, that initial kind of contact that you have with your company, all the way to advocacy, what would you say are the most important touch points for customer marketers to kind of, I guess, prioritize when wanting to get these customers and kind of help turn or convert them then into people that will actually kind of champion your business?
That's a great question. I'm not gonna lie, it's not easy to build up a very straightforward life cycle journey for your customer advocates, and the reason is that it doesn't rely on customer marketing only. So there's CX involved, sales and the BUs as well. So I think it's been taking a while for us to get to a point where we could build up a life cycle journey that could make sense to all of us, all the stakeholders involved. Back to your question, I would say that definitely the first purchasing phase is really important. So when I look at Cisco, the CX team are doing a fantastic job in onboarding the customers, and we do have a close relationship with CX, just to make sure that we we can turn them into advocates as soon as we realize that that post purchasing experience was successful. So I would say that's definitely something that we normally see as a great touch point, working with CX, making sure that there is a solid post purchasing experience, and then at the point we pitch the advocate or referencing opportunities depending on obviously what the customer is available for. I also think that the journey could start even before, in the sense of we even sometimes we do a lot of work with prospects as well, not necessarily Cisco customers. When we do events, we speak to prospects and we let them know that if they obviously purchase our solutions, that they can be part of an advocacy program, that we really want to build a relationship that is about trust, and about which is not necessarily transactional. So obviously that's not the stage where you can also obviously you create customer advocates, but you build up solid foundations for the future. But definitely the post purchasing phases when we try to generate the vast majority of customer advocates. But we also irrespective of the entry point, we also do the opposite, in the sense of we work with customers that have been with Cisco for 20 years, but there's never been a real advocacy conversation. So we also try to work with other teams and let them know that even if the advocacy narrative or the has not been shared upfront, that there's still an opportunity for those customers to actually be advocate and speak to prospects and be an ambassador for the brand.
Yeah. I mean, it's amazing, because you think about all the kind of possibilities for kind of customer marketing, and you think about talking to prospects, even just making sure that they have an awareness of an advocacy program. That might not lead to anything, but you may even have, if you are doing the right things with customer marketing, interacting with customer experience, and if those customers, well, prospects that turn into customers, then have a good experience with your company, they might even be the first ones to kind of reach out to you about it as well.
Totally. And I think it's also important that I really believe that being an advocate is a kind of full-time job. So it can be anyone. So I think if you advocate for a company, it means that you really relate to obviously to the company, the values, the messaging, and the actual products as well. But I feel that what we did, for example, in the past, we used the NPS survey to really, the Net Promoter Score in a survey, to really understand, okay, what if we look at the customer audience, who are promoters, people that can really advocate for Cisco, so as opposed to detractors. I mean, it's also okay for some customers to not necessarily be happy with the products or the service, and at the point probably you should put more effort and and energy on understanding what's not really going on well, and see if there is a way for those customers to be turned into advocates in the future. But I feel that the Net Promoter Score is definitely a survey that helped us build up a very solid, I would say, army of customer advocates.
Yeah, I mean, useful as well with the big kind of customer base that Cisco has. Having a numbered system as the NPS is, it works quite nicely.
Absolutely.
So I guess to kind of finish off our conversation here, we've talked a lot about advocates. We've talked about kind of the touch points in which you can kind of start approaching the conversation to converting customers into advocates. So I guess to kind of round off, once you have those customers that are advocates, that have become advocates, recently, maybe they've been advocates for 10 years. What is your experience in terms of kind of maintaining that kind of level of relationship with a customer. Things can change quite a lot in a company, 1 year to 10 years time.
Absolutely.
And so how do you what's kind of the one thing that customer marketers can do to kind of help maintain these relationships? Because of course each relationship is going to be very unique, but what would you say is like one kind of broad thing that may kind of help support those advocates?
That's a great question. It's something that we discussed in the panel earlier this morning. My answer would be personalization. That's really key. So I think that quality versus quantity. That's what I think. I mean, sometimes when you scale, and that happened to us as well. I need to say, we made a few mistakes in the past, and I'm not gonna lie. So you scale and you start thinking about numbers, figures. I've got a community of 20,000 people, 30,000 people. I've got 2,000 references in the portal or whatever, which is good. Obviously, it's like I do understand the necessity of showing the value of your program to internal stakeholders, but then on the other hand, I mean, you need to look after customers that have been with you for like 10, 20 years, and you need to really make sure that personalization is there, that they always, even if they've been in the program for 10 years, they still feel valued, appreciated, and they still see the kind of personal touch, they still see a face behind the program. And I feel that you need resources though, and that's a conversation that obviously has to happen in any organization. Okay, if we are scaling then and we want to not give up on the kind of personal relationship and touch, then we need resources and we need clear roles and responsibilities, I would say. In our case, for example, we do have a global team, and I'm part of the global team, but we do have regional teams as well, regional customer marketing teams. And at the point, it is really important to agree on roles and responsibilities. Who is going to reach out to those customers? Who is going to nurture those customers? And we need people in the regions to make sure that conversation happens and the customers feel valued. The other thing that I would say, in the sense of retaining your customers and making sure that your program is still valuable to them, innovating. I mean, there's no way that you can keep things as they are for years. I mean, you need to get to a point where you need to challenge them, or you need to be challenged by your customers. You need to expand your programs. You need to build up new pilots. You need to try new things that are going to capture what customers need at the point in time. And again, we started 7 years ago this program in Cisco, and the company is going, the program is gone to some extent, because obviously we have been evolving over time, and now we are engaging, we are creating a kind, to quote Captivate collective, a kind of advocacy everywhere journey, which wasn't something that we could discuss 7 years ago. And then just to final consideration, I think that you need to keep listening to your customers. If you stop listening, because you the program is up and running and you get nice results, great, but it's not going to last that long. You need to keep listening, understand what works, what doesn't, and how you can make that experience even better, I would say.
Yeah. I mean, some fantastic points to end on, really. Like growing specifically, making sure everything grows with you and all of that kind of thing, which is really helpful. And obviously not everyone can do that with like resources and stuff like that. It's about kind of finding the balance, I think.
Totally. I would say so.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Us. I think this has been a really, really fantastic conversation. I've been really enjoying the event so far.
Same. Really interesting, and looking forward to today and tomorrow as well.
Yeah, of course, it's going to be a really, really good one.
Cool.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
I'll let you enjoy the event now.
Perfect. Thanks.